Joining us now, he is a tennis instructor and tennis coach at both Troy, Athens, and Rochester high schools. Joining us on the program now is Axl Patalinghug on the Oakland County Megacast. Axl, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We appreciate having you on. How have you been during the pandemic?
At first it was kind of rough, but starting June, things started picking up to be normal, so that was good. But yeah, right now I think things are kind of okay for in our industry, but still some tough things here and there.
So tennis is a fall sport, and practices have begun for many fall sports, including tennis, coming up as they're approaching their upcoming season. It's a sport that is relatively separated. You're maintaining your social distance on one side of the net versus the other, but you're passing around similar tennis balls, and in many cases, some teams may be sharing rackets and so on. How are you able to maintain social distance and other COVID measures among your student athletes as you're practicing and preparing for the fall season?
So what we did mostly was the biggest change. We limited the ratio. So the ratio is one tennis professional per 4 students. Because in the past we would do like 1-to-6 ratios or 1-to-8 ratios. But I think the key there for keeping everyone safe was, that 1-to-4 ratio. And, obviously telling like the kids or the athletes just to maintain that 6-foot distance from each other. And another thing, I think a lot of the tennis professionals around like carry like hand sanitizer with them, or just other like sanitizing stuff to like wipe down carts, wipe down rackets, and just like always reminding those athletes, don't touch your face like during the session or whatever. So just like a lot of stuff like that mainly, and kids are happy to comply, and everything's been smooth from there.
These tennis matches during the regular season, they often occur on high school tennis courts that have multiple different courts within the general tennis area. So there's ability to spread out as a team, but you're still going there as a large team, whether you're traveling just as varsity, traveling just as junior varsity, or a combination. How are you going to be able to maintain that distance while players aren't necessarily on the courts in their matches, but still need to remain relatively distanced to maintain safety standards?
Right. So, I mean, I think I'm not sure what we're going to do in the fall with them, but I think we're not going to have public transportation. I think we're going to try to have try to get a lot of parents to help us out with the driving situation and stuff like that, just to, keep kids out of like huge groups like that. Maybe just have like 2 kids per car or whatnot. But other than that, we just got to keep telling them maintain that 6-foot distance from them. Group cheers, group huddles, stuff like that. We're going to, keep that at a distance as well. So, just like very simple stuff like that. But, the biggest thing was like that transportation wise, stuff like that. So, yeah.
Axl Patalinghug with us. He is the tennis instructor and tennis coach at Troy, Athens, and Rochester high schools. And there's a lot of concern going into the fall sports season for all these student athletes in the various sports that there's a possibility with COVID-19 still very much lingering on, and the possibility for positive tests on your individual team or on teams that you match up with, that could put a wrinkle into the season or potentially cancel some games and matches. What do you say to your student athletes as they're preparing for the fall, and maybe they weren't a spring athlete and didn't experience what happened in March, to prepare them to continue to still be motivated to play these games, but also know at the same time that at any point the season could potentially be over?
Right. So obviously, because, we feel bad for the spring athletes especially the seniors who weren't able to compete for their last year or whatnot. But, we're still hopeful for the fall season. And kids are still pretty excited. They just want to get out there and compete and have fun. But, we just keep going on with practices and whatnot, try to be as normal as possible, try to normalize everything with all this stuff going on. So, for the most part, all the kids are so motivated, and, we do tell them if even one case happens, we're going to have to shut stuff down for a little bit. So, they're all prepared for that. They all understand that, and are, they're all prepared for whatever comes.
So do the student athletes have to wear a mask while they're playing tennis, or just like on the sidelines? How does that work?
So for Troy Athens, for example, walking to and from the courts, they are required to wear a mask and maintain that distance. And then when they're playing, they can remove the mask if they're comfortable. But I do have some players who will still wear their mask while they play. So it's just all personal preference there. But for the most part, just going to and from the courts, just that middle ground in between, they are required to wear masks and stuff. So, yeah.
Axl, with the uncertainty approaching this season, we've spoken about what you've said to your team before, but just from a standpoint of being a former high school athlete and understanding the motivational factors that go into competing at that level or at any level of sport, do you imagine or are you already experiencing that there's a higher level of motivation to compete and to be a strong player and improve because of the knowing that at any point the season could be over and that could be your last time stepping onto the court as a high school tennis player?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I was growing up and, entering my final year of high school, I was definitely extra motivated to, do my best, perform my best, just because it could have been my last year competing at that level. And I definitely see it. And I only saw that, between junior and senior, but I'm definitely seeing my younger players like freshman, sophomore, really like amping it up and taking it seriously just because, we don't know how long this is going to last. Maybe this could be their last year as a sophomore, as a junior, so, they're ready to compete and they're ready to give it their all when the time comes. So, they're just not going to take anything for granted for the most part from what I'm seeing, which is good.
Axl Patalinghug, he is the tennis instructor and tennis coach at Troy Athens and Rochester High School. He also is a former Oakland University tennis club player. Axl, as they're approaching their season as well, how do you imagine that the onset of playing college sports might look different this fall as opposed to it has previously?
It'll definitely be different just because in all college sports in general, for the most part, I think they're going to try to push to have this season, but, definitely with no spectators and stuff like that. So that will be, I think, a really harsh change for them just because, most athletes, they play for more than themselves. They'll play for family, they'll play for friends. So without having like a limited audience and spectators there, I think that will be pretty tough for them. But at the end of the day, you are there for yourself, you're there for your team, you're there for your school. So, they'll still find that motivation to compete at that high level.
Axl, anything else you'd like to say or anything else you'd like to touch on today before we let you go?
No, I mean, I guess the most common theme here is for my players and for like me seeing people at different levels, just like, continue to work hard and be prepared for whatever. Don't take anything for granted because you never know when it's going to be your last season, whether it's like a pandemic like right now or a season-ending injury. Just, I guess live in the moment and enjoy what you're doing. So, yeah.
We appreciate having you on today. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
We appreciate it. Axl Patalinghug, he is the tennis instructor and tennis coach at Troy Athens and Rochester High Schools with us on the Oakland County MegaCast.